started to gravitate towards energy medicine. I met Clint Ober 10 years ago. I met him at a conference here in California, in San Diego. And he was talking to me about energy. And as a cardiologist, the heart's all about energy. And the heart's an electrical organ, just like the brain. The brain's very electrical, but the heart's the most electrical organ in the body. And Clint had this incredible insight about using the earth as a way of healing the body. And I said to him, I said, look, all you got to do is show that earthing reduces inflammation, and you can sink your teeth into it, because inflammation is the root cause of coronary disease, cancer, thyroid disease, neurodegenerative disease, diabetes, you name it. Inflammation is the root cause of disease. So Clint then took the reins, and he was like a salmon swimming upstream. I mean, it was rough. He went to a lot of scientists and a lot of MDs, and they didn't get it. Unfortunately, after 10 years and millions of dollars of research, a lot of the conventional medical doctors still don't get it, But the truth is that if you use the energy of the earth, the energy of the earth, it's less than a milligauss. It's about 0.5 milligauss. And basically, what the energy of the earth is, it's really simple. The earth is struck by lightning thousands of times per minute, especially around the equator. And when the lightning strikes the earth, or when there's solar flares from the atmosphere, billions and trillions of electrons get infiltrated into the earth. Now, the electrons have a negative charge. Now, our bodies, because they're so toxic, living in 2010, our bodies are a sea of chemicals, and we're a sea of electric charge, and it's a positive electric charge from what we call free radical oxidative stress. So our bodies are starving for electrons, literally starving. Now, a lot of us get electrons. We take antioxidants. We take CoQ10, we take zinc, we take beta-carotene, lutein. I mean, the list goes on and on. They're powerful antioxidants, but you would need handfuls of antioxidants to sequester free radicals living in the day we live in. Let me give you an example. I was born in 1946. There were maybe 50 million cars in 1946. There was none of the sea of chemicals that we have today. There was certainly no EMF or RF. And the autism rate back in 1946 was 1 in 25,000. Around 1970, it increased to 1 in 10,000, maybe more because of a more polluted environment. Around 1980, with the advent of computers and the advent of cell phones, autism was now 1 in like 2,000, 1,500. Today, with billions of cell phones on the planet, and cordless phones, and Bluetooth monitors, and baby monitors, and you name it, now in a male, it's 1 in 67. I mean, our society it's killing itself. I mean, we're almost like the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire failed, and for you historians out there, you know this, where they drank a lot of wine, they drank in lead goblets, and the wine would oxidize with the lead, and basically they were drinking a lot of lead, and the Senate became demented. They developed Alzheimer's disease. So the Roman Empire, from outside wars, internal strife, and a Senate that couldn't do anything, almost like our Congress today, Basically, they couldn't do anything, the empire fell. And we're headed for the same thing. I was up in Canada. I did a section on there, 60 Minutes, of the American counterpart. And in Canada, there's a big movement by consumers of trying to get Wi-Fi out of schools. In our country, everybody wants Wi-Fi. It was just on the news today. Starbucks has Wi-Fi. I won't fly in an airplane if they have Wi-Fi. Why? Because that Wi-Fi is pulsating energy, pulsating. Just like this energy, which is, and I hope I can get through the talk without, having disturbed heart rate variability, but just with this, So the point I want you to get here is that something is happening in the world today. And there's other societies, like the Soviet Union, won't allow a child to have a cell phone from 5 to 18. Outlawed. Finland, the same thing. Denmark, the same thing. Spain, Greece, Japan, they're trying to get Wi-Fi out. Our country is doing nothing. We are doing absolutely nothing The telecommunications industry spends billions of dollars a month in marketing and lobbying. You can't even sue anybody with a cell phone tower. They put cell phone towers in schools because they pay the school money to have a cell phone tower there. But then there's hope on the horizon, and the hope is grounding. When my son was sick, he said, "Dad, the thing that brings me back, that gets my energy, is when he walks barefoot." He walked barefoot so many times, he stepped on nails, he stepped on a bee. I mean, he was walking barefoot all the time. When we were in Maryland at a horse farm, I got us a room in the Holiday Inn because it was raining. He slept on the grass in the tent, next to the stallion barn, And that's what he wanted to do. He says, "I feel so much better when I ground." And what grounding does, it puts out the fire. It douses the fires of inflammation. When I was practicing cardiologist and my patients would travel to Florida when I was practicing in Connecticut, they would come back after a vacation, they say, "I feel so much better." And I thought it was the sun, and I thought it was the water, and I thought it was the reduction of stress. But if you really look at it, it was the ground. When you walk barefoot on the sand, or you walk barefoot on the grass, or on concrete, asphalt doesn't count. On tile is okay, or if you sleep grounded, or if you use a pad, or if you drive grounded, oh my gosh, a lot of things happen. And we did the science. I didn't do all the science. I participated in 2 studies, and I'm absolutely amazed. I'm just absolutely blown away of what Clint Ober has just brought to my attention. And my job is to bring it to your attention and also to the medical establishment. There are a bunch of papers right now that have been accepted for publication on this. A lot of them pertain to the cardiovascular system, and I'm going to go over that tonight. And basically, I'll show a few slides, and hopefully you'll take the message home that we got a problem here, but we have a solution, And we got to share the solution with everybody. Just got to share it. And I have to tell you, it's got to start somewhere, And the way to start is everybody's got to get grounded. If you want to read a book, read it in your backyard. Put your feet on the ground, If you want a sun, just put your feet on the ground. Medicine is headed right into electrical medicine. Did anybody ever hear Nasir Hassan talk? Nassim, he was on Time magazine. He's a physicist. Guy is unbelievable. He solved Einstein's equations. He's in his 40s. He lived in Hawaii. That's right. You're from Hawaii. That's right. I met you before. We drank some water. What's your name again? Scott. Yeah, Scott and I drank a little blue water together. We bonded. And it's amazing that you know Nassim. Oh, smartest guy I've ever met. Oh, okay, good. Thank you for that proper pronunciation. That's the right pronunciation, Scott? I'm Scott. That's Scott. All right. But anyway, when I met Nassim, we were talking about zeta potential. And because I was looking for a perfect water, and we were talking about zeta potential, how the zeta potential thins the water. It's like water being wetter. And in his presentation, he was talking about how red blood cells, there's a force between red blood cells, and that red blood cells in our body function at the speed of light. Think about that. Our red blood cells are turning at 186,000 miles per second. That's unbelievable. Now, I got to tell you, as a cardiologist, I did 3,000 angiograms in a cath lab. And I was amazed when I was 30 years old, when I was a fellow in cardiology. We would put rubber bands around an artery, and we would cut an artery and stick a catheter in the artery, and then we would inject the heart would die, and the heart would light up like a Christmas tree, and we would see blockages. But sometimes those rubber bands would slip, and I'll never forget it as long as I lived. I will never forget this. If a rubber band slipped, that artery would squirt blood out and hit the ceiling 30 feet across the room. And what I got was that, well, that's why people bleed out from a gunshot wound within 30 seconds if you hit a major artery. But what I really got was how the heart can torque the blood. So Think of it this way. When the heart contracts in systole, it twists like this, and the blood gets torqued, and the blood's spinning at 186,000 miles a second. Well, the heart is an unbelievable organ. Unbelievable. Where it can have that force and throw that blood out. And now Pauling talked about when red blood cells start to lose vitamin C, they get knocked off by the spleen. Because what happens is when they get older, they can't keep up with their younger counterparts, and they can't function at 186,000 miles per second. So the body, in its wisdom, takes them out with the spleen. And then our bone marrow makes new red blood cells. So, in essence, we're electrical beings. You know, we're not flesh and bones. We're electric. We're electric. So, the heart, being an electrical organ, is the most vulnerable to toxic electrical stress, but it's the most susceptible to healing forces of harmonious waves that can nurture the heart. So we'll go with this, and we'll talk about vibrational medicine, and hopefully we'll get some good information. I got to take this jacket off because I'm getting hot under the lights. This is a rose. It's from a textbook of John Parakis. He was a bioenergetics spiritual therapist. And it shows that when a rose opens up, there's an energy attached to that plant. You know, all plants have energy. Gemstones have energy. Quartz has energy. And then the human body, we have an energy field around us, you know, the aura of the body. And then we have our chakras. We have these areas of the body that have intensified areas of energy. And that fourth chakra there, you can see it, the heart chakra in the back, is the area that I worked with as a cardiologist. Now, I spent 10 years in bioenergetic psychotherapy. And what bioenergetic psychotherapy is about is energy blocks. If you have an energy block in your body, the energy becomes stagnant, well, that section of the body can be prone to disease. For example, people who are constipated all the time or obstipated, they don't move, are more prone to bowel cancer. You know, as an example, people who don't breathe right, frozen diaphragms, barrel chest with a lot of heartbreak, don't expand their chest, get coronary disease. And there's a lot of science behind it. You know, they put out more thromboxane, their blood clots faster, they don't breathe as well. But anyway, in heart disease, I wrote the book Heartbreak and Heart Disease back when I was 42 years old. And what I got when I wrote that book was that how powerful emotional factors are in heart disease. It's almost like cancer. You know, with cancer, I mean, every patient that I know with cancer has some sort of emotional conflict going on, either consciously or unconsciously. In cardiac disease, there's an emotional conflict, but it has more to do with heartbreak and the loss of unconditional love. And basically, if we don't have unconditional love when we're growing up, well, then we develop a false self. You know, it can be called a coronary prone personality, a type A behavior pattern. You can give it certain names, but if you don't have unconditional love, then you associate love based on success. So the body or the unconscious drive makes up the rule. Well, if I become successful, if I become a politician, a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, somebody will love me. You know? And that sets the stage for coronary prone behavior. So the loss of love, and it can happen with the loss of a parent, a divorce, a loss of a pet. I've had all sorts of scenarios in my practice. So basically, the healing power of love is just unbelievable. Look, when you fall in love, what happens to your cells? They dance, they vibrate. They vibrate, they dance. You're happy, you're joyful when you're in love. And people don't get sick. And then there's a nice study of pets. You know, Jim Lynch did this study years ago. Now, I'm going to interview Jim Lynch for one of my newsletters, you know, and talk about any more research he has on the healing power of love. But he did the work in dogs where if you pet a dog, your blood pressure goes down. And then there was a study that came out later, and basically the study showed that if you had a heart attack and you came home to a pet, a cat or a loving dog, your incidence of a recurrent heart attack or death was 500% lower than if he came home to a judgmental spouse. So when I read that article, I got 3 dogs. I have 2 chows and an elk hound. And my elk hound, Charlie, he passed away about 4 years ago. He was 16. And the vet said, I've never seen a dog with a stronger heart. And Charlie's been taking CoQ10 for 15 of his 16 years. And then I had Chewy, my chow, which absolutely was the most loving dog I've ever had in my life. She had an angel in her. I am convinced she had an angel in that body. And we lost her this year in January at 14. And now I have another chow. She's 11. And I have to tell you, when you make contact with an animal and you look in their eyes and you make contact and you can take in that love of that 4-legged creature, oh man, it's incredible. Now, for you ladies out there who have a tough time trusting the opposite sex, and if you men have the same problem with the opposite sex, pays to get a dog of the opposite sex. I mean, you can save $100,000 in psychotherapy, It works. It absolutely works. So pets are a must. So anyway, I was driving yesterday, and I saw this, I'm at a light, and there's this beautiful Malamute, and I used to have an Alaskan Malamute, a real one from Alaska, because I practiced in Alaska for a while. I was a young doctor up there. And this dog pokes his head out, and he has these almond eyes, and he's a beautiful marked Malamute. And I said to the driver, I said, Malamute or Husky? And he goes, I don't know, I just picked it up from the pound. And I said, good for you, and anyway, go to a pound and adopt something, and give it a home. Anyway, bioenergetic medicine. That was kind of interesting. I studied bioenergetic psychotherapy when I came out of my residency and fellowship. And now I'm talking about bioenergetic medicine. Well, it's a study of energy transformation. So every cell must have a way of obtaining energy. Now, detoxification is also an energetic process. When my son was sick, his temperature went down to 95 degrees. When you're sick, your body temperature goes down because you don't have the energy, you can't produce the ATP. It takes an enormous amount of ATP to keep the body up to 98.6. So sick people have lower energy, they have lower temperature. And when I see people with a lower temperature, what happens is the cells can't take in nutrients, they can't expel waste, and when the temperature gets lower, microbials increase, and you get more viruses and bacteria in the body, and more parasites, the body gets activated, and the immune system just falls apart. I saw a far infrared sauna here. Far infrared sauna is one of the best ways of healing the body. I'm going to talk about that later. But the more you sweat, the more you get rid of toxins, because a lot of toxins, insecticides, and pesticides are in a subcutaneous fat. So, and the sauna is one of the best ways of getting rid of bacterial infections. And I'll never forget a famous cancer guy. I won't reveal his name. His wife came down with breast cancer, and he said to me, he goes, the thing that saved my wife's life was she was in a far infrared sauna every day and cooked that cancer to death. Basically, when she cooked herself, she got rid of the cancer. Nice story, but interesting. So, why do we get sick? What happens to us, Well, first of all, there's always a perfect storm behind a major catastrophic illness. There's emotional factors, there's spiritual factors, there's physical factors, but if you look at it, body trauma, that's important. Emotional trauma. I believe every cardiac patient I've seen or every cancer I've ever seen is emotional conflict. It's there, you just got to dig for it. There's environmental toxins, including medications, and properly prescribed drugs. Properly prescribed. 4th leading cause of death in America today. Don't take pharmaceutical drugs unless you absolutely have to. And that includes, aspirin, ibuprofen, Don't take pharmaceutical drugs. First of all, lots of it's a big lie. I mean, the biggest lie on the planet right now is cholesterol. That's such a big lie and a big scam and a big myth about taking statin drugs. The travesty in medicine, and I see it over and over again, somebody comes into my office, usually a woman, she has a high cholesterol and she's placed on a statin drug. Bad medicine, very bad medicine, very, very bad. I mean, medical profession, we're treating numbers, we're not treating patients. Now look, cholesterol is found at the scene of the crime, it's found at the scene, but it's not the perpetrator. It doesn't cause coronary disease. It's low down on my list. Will RF cause coronary disease? Absolutely. Will excess insulin? Absolutely. Will trans fats? Absolutely. Cholesterol? Look, if you have small particle LDL, or if you have LP little a, that's a small particle, that can cause inflammation. So there is a small amount of truth to the cholesterol theory of heart disease, but what you see on the television, don't buy it. Do not buy it. And if your doctor wants to put you on a cholesterol-lowering drug, ask him why. There is no proof that cholesterol causes heart disease. There is absolutely no scientific validity that cholesterol causes heart disease unless if your LDL becomes oxidized because there's a lot of small particles and LP little a. Anyway, electrical pollution, wired and wireless. You can get zapped many ways, from 60 AC to small motors, appliances, hair dryers, all that stuff. Hey, look, when you use your clothes dryer, hopefully it's not next to your TV where you're reading a book at the same time. You're getting zapped like crazy. Same thing with your refrigerator. If your refrigerator is on the side of your bedroom and that motor's going off, you're getting zapped. So be aware of being zapped with AC and particularly RF. Trans fats are still in the environment. I mean, and they cause horrific problems. And then there's inflammation, which is really a disease situation. That's a result of the damage of the repair loop. So what happens is, over time, our cells depart from healthy synchronous vibration. Remember, pulsation, vibration, synchronous vibration is the key to life. That's the key to being healthy. When cells start vibrating or stop vibrating, or when the energy goes down in the cell, then, again, microbes can increase, and then all of a sudden the cell becomes sick. So in the healing arts, we have pharmaceuticals, discovery of penicillin, discovery of insulin. Hey, good stuff, good stuff. But we relied on a society too much on pharmaceuticals. We live in a pharmaceutical dark age, and we must get out of it. And the answer is basically the nutraceuticals. Now, nutraceuticals are good because they facilitate metabolic reactions, but electraceuticals, I believe, with the help of nutraceuticals, is going to be the field of the future. And it's old. Laying on of hands is as old as the Bible. When you're sick and somebody puts their arm on you, and that person's healthy, a lot of us aren't healthy. We think they're healthy, but we're not. But still, our chi is better. Laying on of hands is absolutely essential. So when doctors lay their hands on patients, or if you have an on-demand practitioner that's laying their hands on you, or if you have somebody, or a massage therapist, or a chiropractor, or a DO, they're putting their hands on you, that's healing, especially if the intention is good. Then there's pulse magnetic fields, there's magnetism, far infrared sauna, there's laser, there's red light laser, and then there's grounding, the Earth's energy. The Earth's energy, to me, is the most subtle and the most ancient form of energy medicine. So if you look at pathology or illness, we have nutrient depletion, then we have environmental toxicity, we have emotional pollution, emotional trauma, and we get mitochondrial dysfunction. Now, remember from high school, we have these little mitochondria in our cells. They produce ATP, they produce energy. And the problem is, especially in heart disease, we got like 5,000 mitochondria per cell, as opposed to 200 mitochondria in your biceps tendon or your biceps muscle. So the heart is a very dynamic organ. Now the problem is that these mitochondria, they don't have defense mechanisms. See, mitochondrial DNA, unlike nuclear DNA, have no defense mechanisms. So over time, they get tired, especially if there's trans fats or free radicals or insecticides or pesticides or RF or too much insulin or cigarette smoke or radon, and the list goes on and on. These mitochondria cannot function, they get tired, they get vulnerable, they drop out, and all of a sudden, you get disease. So I really like the mitochondrial theory of aging. I mean, I believe in hormones. I don't believe in a neuroendocrine theory of aging, like growth hormone. I don't fall into that camp. I do believe in hormonal situations. If your hormones are low, yes, that helps. But I believe that the key to aging is supporting mitochondria. And there's a lot of science behind it. Because if you get mitochondrial dysfunction, you're going to get illness. It's that simple. I remember I was in an American College of Cardiology conference. I was sitting in an audience like you, but there was like 10,000 cardiologists in the audience. And this researcher from Great Britain, he gets up and he gives this talk, 8-minute talk, and he says, we had 100,000 cases of heart failure in Great Britain, and 39,000 of them were idiopathic. Idiopathic? That means no known cause. And I'm sitting in my seat and I'm foaming at the mouth and I'm saying, what is wrong with this guy? I mean, nutritional cardiology, 39,000 cases, I'd say about the majority of them were due to CoQ10 deficiency, or nutritional factors, where the heart struggles and the mitochondria aren't fed and the heart suffers. So the key to aging is keeping your mitochondria intact. And there's the data. 100-year-old people have good mitochondria. You can give rats and mice catalase, which is a natural antioxidant defense mechanism in the body. They'll increase their lifespan. The science shows that if you protect your mitochondria, you're going to live longer. Now, what do pharmaceutical drugs do? Well, pharmaceutical drugs are mitochondrial toxins. They're toxins on the mitochondria. They knock off mitochondria. Let me give you an example. Non-steroidals. Women who take non-steroidals, but more women than men, if they use them over time, they can get hypertension or kidney insufficiency because they cause damage of the endothelial membrane. Men who take Viagra or any of these, nitric oxide producing drugs, they produce so much nitric oxide. So if a male gets stuffy nose or a headache or he's seeing blue lights, that's mitochondrial cell death. Or Aricept that we give people with Parkinson's disease. It's a potent mitochondrial toxin. So drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, we have to be careful. Now look, if I'm treating a cardiac emergency or if I'm treating a kid with asthma, of course I'm going to use a pharmaceutical drug. That's the way we should use them. But would I take something for a common cold that my body's going to heal anyway? Absolutely not. Hey look, if you have a headache, ground yourself. Don't reach for the ibuprofen. Because if you keep reaching for it over time, it becomes a reflex, you're going to get mitochondrial toxicity. Now, the other thing drugs do is they cause nutrient depletion. They cause depletion of drugs, of nutrients in the body. Let me give you an example. Aspirin, great drug, depletes folic acid. Women who take birth control pills, over time, birth control pills deplete B vitamins. That's why we're seeing a lot of young women with heart disease, because they don't complement with B vitamins because the drug depletes B vitamins. Statin drugs deplete CoQ10. And the list goes on and on. Beta blockers deplete CoQ10. Oral hypoglycemics, for type 2 diabetes, deplete CoQ10. So we've got to find safer alternatives to pharmaceutical drugs. And basically, that's where nutraceuticals and electroceuticals come in. So if you look at healing, David Wolf did a little interview with me. He says, what do you do for healing? I go, geez, it's simple. First of all, you ground. It's free. It's easy. Second of all, you eat a non-inflammatory diet. Raw foods, a lot of vegetarian. If you do meat, you want to do migratory salmon or buffalo or, nothing with hormones in it. You want to eat organic. You want to avoid gluten. You want to avoid dairy. It's easy stuff, easy stuff. Would I eat veal? No. First of all, I think they're cruel to calves. And second of all, it's one of the most inflammatory meats you can eat. Probably, you know why? Because those calves are suffering. And that suffering is transferred to the meat. So if you have a steak one night and you can't sleep, you have a nightmare, you took on the energy of that terrified cow. That's energy medicine, folks. That's a transfer of energy that goes into your body.